Your Creative Push, episode 124.
You can have that again. You can go through cycles in your work. You can be more fulfilled than you've been in years. You just have to keep pressing through.
Welcome to Your Creative Push, the podcast that pushes you to pursue your creative passions. I'm your host, Youngman Brown, and today's episode is part 2 of my conversation with Ali Cavanaugh. If you missed part 1, you can very simply head back in your podcast player if you are subscribed, which y'all should be, to episode 123, or you can head to yourcreativepush.com/123 if you want to listen to part 1 before listening to this part 2. But we left off yesterday with Ali telling us about one of her hardest times as an artist and her recent change and how that was received in the art world. So without further ado, I'll just get right back into the conversation. I hope that you enjoy it and I hope that you were inspired by it. Here you go.
Actually, I tell people I had to be able to do the loose paintings that I'm doing now. I had to do 7 years of these very meticulous paintings because that skill really built up. So then when I'm working with the water in big puddles and stuff, I can move it and control it. And I know what I'm trying to get, what I'm trying to achieve to capture that sort of a real, unique presence of a person.
I read this quote from you that you said, in my experience in working with the people that I paint, I repeatedly discover the profound mystery of existence, which is an awesome quote. And can you delve into that just a little bit?
Yeah, well, that's, this is the thing with what do I love most about life? What I love most about my existence is really just enjoying the existence of others and their unique personhood. And I love to, I don't know, I don't remember how long ago it was, but I kind of made a choice to try to see each person as God would see them. If they were created with good and bad, we all have struggles. We all have our good moments, our bad moments, but what is it that is their thing, their gift to the world, and each person has that. Every single person on this planet, even the people that you hate and think are bad, they have a gift. And whenever I change my perspective to looking at people in that way, it's like I just have a burning love for each person that I meet. Like I just see this presence in them, and I see something in them that I want to paint. And right now I'm on more of a kick with children. I'm just crazy. All my friends that have babies or have little, 2-3-year-olds, I'm like, I gotta paint them. And before, when it was Neve, it was kind of like always seeing, as she was growing up, I was always seeing those things in her friends that were her age. Because a lot of times they say when you're a parent, you kind of re-experience life through their eyes. And I definitely see that with my children. And I have 2 boys that I don't paint much. I feel very bad about that. My oldest boy doesn't want to be painted. He hates his picture being taken and all that. But my younger boy, he's just like, when is my painting going to come? And I have literally thousands of photographs of him that I'm going to paint, and I have a whole nother series with him. But I mean, I'm painting about my own self in a lot of ways. And the girls, I just connect to the girls in a way because it feels more like my own experience. And the boys are just like this other creature that I love. And I mean, when you have 4 kids, you love them infinitely. Like you can't measure that at all.
Right. When
it comes to making art in an image that really is pulling from something in me, I can relate to the female figure a little bit more. Although I've painted my sons. I've painted them each about 4 times, but it just doesn't measure up to the hundreds of pictures of especially Neve, my oldest. But I've painted other boys recently. So there is, I think, especially in the child, there's just a magic there in the innocence and the humility that children have. I just love.
I totally agree with what you were saying about before with the seeing other people like in the image of God. And, the way I like to look at other people that, you might not get along with, or they might have a bad attitude, is just like, if you had walked their entire life in their shoes, you'd be the exact same way. Yeah. Like you would have all of their experiences. You would have been born the way they were born and been raised the way they were raised and experienced life the way they experienced life. And guess what? Like, you would be exactly like they would be. And once you can kind of look at it like that, you can kind of understand them more. And I always try to like treat people that way, you know, like the way I would want to be treated. And sometimes if you treat like the biggest jerk, like I work in a poker room and there are some not nice people, you know, they're losing money or they're just they're there every day, they're miserable. And I try to like treat them like that. And it's amazing that when you look at them and look at them in the eye and like just like really like try to care about them and try to talk to them in a way that nobody else is talking to them, because they put up that shield, you know, that force field of negativity around them, and you try to penetrate that, it's like they completely change as a person, you know, like their face will light up. I think it's just like a really good way to approach life. So I love that you know, approach your art in the same way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%.
So you went through your worst moment. Do you have a best moment that you could take us to?
Okay, like there was one moment that my feet didn't touch the ground for I think 3 days. And that was when I was on the cover of American Art Collector for the 100th issue. And they kind of picked like a best of. And they like I think 20 or 25 of the kind of the top contemporary artists. So they thought, you know, and when I was on the cover, I just couldn't believe it. I got the magazine, I was speechless, and I thought, this has to be a mistake. I'm just like, it has to be a mistake. And I just couldn't believe it. And then when I opened up, and the editor for the magazine did a 7-page article on kind of the whole history of their 7 years they had been through and all that. But he pulled, at the beginning of the article, he pulled like his 3 favorite covers out. And one of them was mine. And I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, it's not fake. Like, it really is real. Like, they really, that was a moment where I was just, like I said, I don't think my feet were touching the ground for like 3 days. But I think more seriously, as an artist, you know, and I mentor a lot of people and I talk to a lot of other artists that are, you know, starting out and kind of early career and everything. And, you know, I preach a lot. I talk a lot about this is what's going to happen. This is, you know, and then whenever life doesn't end up, you know, as optimistic as you think, everything that you've told, all the advice you've given doesn't seem to be working for you, you know, that sort of thing, that's a really hard thing, which I fear. Okay. It didn't necessarily happen. And in fact, this is where my best moment, I feel, was whenever I was very, you know, hopeful that when I ended the chapter with Neve and then started a new chapter with Saoirse in a completely different technique, I was hoping that was going to come through, because that does not always happen for artists. When we enter into a new phase, we don't always get support for that, you know? And when I started painting Saoirse and having just my Instagram numbers like almost doubling weekly, and all the comments, the sweetest people are on Instagram, leaving the nicest, most encouraging comments. And it really helped me kind of propel me through a new era, you know, a new chapter, a new unfamiliar place. Then I went to Art Hamptons and got wonderful reception there. And I got a lot of emails, and the most positive feedback I've ever had in my life. And then the show traveled to a solo show in Boston, and then it traveled down to Miami for Art Basel in December, and then it traveled to Fontbonne University here in St. Louis as kind of the finale show. And I don't know, it felt like, you know, all of that kind of, you know, in the back of your head, fear, is this new, completely different work with different model, different place I'm going, which is I'm very excited about. You know, is it going to be well received? And yes, it was well received, and it just opened up a whole new way for me to work. It's, you know, the older work was more about control. Like the initial inspiration would be during the photo shoots when I'm working with the model. And then when I went to my studio to paint it, there was a lot of fun, just technical stuff that I would work on with my palettes and all that, and application. But the new work, I felt right from the beginning, I feel like I'm 20 years old again working in art school, because it's more about just having my idea, kind of putting it down loosely on the panel, and then as the water dries and the blooms dry, then I kind of respond to that. And there's more of a conversation happening with each piece, and there was a lot of unknown happening, and a mystery and an adventure in the piece. I don't know. It was just really refreshing. And so, here I am about a little over a year later of, changing gears big time. And I'm still, really excited and have so many like new ideas happening. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
I love that. And I love that theme of, it's like finding something new. Like when you first started with the Kaolin, it's like, you found this thing and it was like off to the races. And I feel like that you're at that point again where it's like, finding that inspiration. And like you said, it's like back when you're in your 20s, like when things are exciting. And I think that happens with creativity, whatever your artistic field is. It comes in cycles, and inspiration kind of comes in cycles, and the way that you do things comes in cycles. And it's about kind of riding that wave, and it's about just really like when you get that excitement and that desire and that, inspiration to try new things like you were talking about. It's just like trying to embrace it and try to spend as much time as you can doing it.
Yeah. And that, you said that whole story was, that was my best moment. Well, it was really good feeling to know that you can have that again. You can go through cycles in your work. You can be more fulfilled than you've been in years, with your work. You just have to keep pressing through.
Keep pushing through. And, it's a tough thing to do, especially when you're deep in like the not fun part of the cycle.
Exactly. And sometimes you just need to change everything. Just be like, I just got to start something different here.
Yeah. Sometimes you definitely have to pivot that way. But a lot of things we're talking about have to do with like balancing time too, like with having so many kids and, just like the things that happen in life and taking on a lot of different shows like you were saying. Do you have like a formula for balancing your time or any advice that you could give to people listening for balancing their time?
Yeah, you have to set your time aside every day. You have to make it a ritual. You have to be very disciplined, and you have to have a space set up, not a space that's going to get set up whenever you're ready to work. You need to have a space that is already set up that you can go to every single day for a certain amount of time. And for me, when, in 2007, when things, just kind of really blew up quickly, I was having to paint 10, sometimes 12 hours a day. And then when I got pregnant with Malachi, that was my third one. I decided, you know what, I'm going to have to cut back here to 4 hours. So, from the beginning, even though I could work longer hours, I cut back to 4 hours, and I said, well, this is just what I'm going to be able to do, because I know that once I have a baby, I know that I will have 4 hours a day to paint. I know no matter what happens, I can have 4 hours. So that was my thinking there. And I never really went past the 4 hours. And when I say 4 hours, that's 4 hours of actual painting, because there's easily another 4 hours of correspondence and stuff like that. And in fact, with getting smartphones and stuff, that was since Malachi's been born. That really helps because, while I'm doing things that, snuggling on the couch, I can be returning an email to a gallery, or I can go places with the kids and still be able to do the business end, because that's going to take another 3 or 4 hours a day doing that stuff. So I would say, my advice to balance is that you just have to be disciplined in showing up every day to do something. And in those little tiny, every day, all those little steps are going to build up into an actual like serious body of work or serious career. You can do it. You can do it on 4 hours a day. But I would say, even if you only have 2 hours a day, if you're just starting out and you only have 1 hour a day, just make sure it's like the quiet hour. If you have to wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to get that hour in, and that's all you have, that's how you balance it.
Exactly. It's finding that time and designating it to it, not doing it half-heartedly, but just, turning off everything and having that designated time. And you're right. So often, like with creative pursuits, there's all kinds of other business aspects and just things that you really don't think about going into it, but that just add up. Trying to find other times in your day to squeeze them in when you have down moments throughout the rest of your busy day. But yeah, having that designated time where it's like almost like a date with your art or a date with your whatever your creative pursuit is, and it's just like scheduled time and nothing else is going to get in the way, and it's a ritual, like you said, every day.
Yep.
So important.
Yep.
What would you say that art and creativity brings to your life?
I would say that being a creative person helps me, I think, be a better mom, wife, and friend. And I think that, like, my husband will say, you're more of a grandma than a mom. Because I just love, I'm like, but they're being creative. They're making a mess. They're being creative. But there's like paper everywhere. I see things in a different way. I don't know. I think that it can really, having your creativity being exercised a lot can really help you just live a life that's more mindful and relaxed and more visual and seeing things deeper than just kind of superficial.
Yeah, it's like a mental exercise to be doing every day, and like we were talking about before. Yeah, you're right. It makes you see the world differently, and definitely in a better way, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Ali, I was wondering, do you have a favorite book or YouTube clip or anything else that you draw inspiration from and that maybe we could too?
Yeah, if I were to recommend a book, it would be Art and Fear, and it's by David Bales and Ted Orland. That's a really good book. Just really gets inside the whole life of being an artist. And then probably my favorite video is anything by Dana Gioia, and Gioia is Gioia. But I love his lecture on why beauty matters. He also did a TED Talk that I love about places. He's a poet and a writer, and he's probably one of my favorites. Like sometimes I'll just listen to just Dana Gioia YouTube videos if I'm having a bad day, and it always cheers me up. And then there's a really good video by Eric Zener, Zener, and it's a lecture that he did at, I think, the Academy of Art in San Francisco, and it's also on YouTube. And it's so helpful for someone really trying to kind of plan their art career and just get kind of a full picture. So those are the things I would recommend.
Very cool. Thank you. We'll have them linked at our show notes page at yourcreativepush.com/Ali Cavanaugh. Ali, this has been wonderful, but it is time for the final push.
Okay.
And this is where I ask you to reach to the microphone and grab the shoulder of one of the listeners that you've already really inspired today, and just give them your best words of advice and push them to pursue their creative passions.
Okay, I want to say, if you kind of think about going on a hike in the mountains and you're on a peak and you look over and you see another mountain, another peak over there that you want to get to, you can romanticize about that. You can think about how you want to be there, but the only way you're going to get there is to hike over there step by step. And what I found is that it's really important to look at your art, your journey as an artist, as taking a step by step, and each piece of work that you make is a stepping stone to the next piece. Instead of getting sort of wrapped up in the final, where you want to be, the final goal, just focus on the steps. And if you are on that hike, each step you look at the ground, look at the trees, look at the sky, look at everything around you and enjoy the journey. Because, if you're focusing on the journey and the growth that you make, it's going to leave you more fulfilled. And if all you can think about is this end game that you want to get to, the work it's not going to have what it needs to have. So that's my advice. Take it as a journey. Take your art on a journey instead of just career decisions, where you want to be, just looking at the goals and boom, boom, boom.
Ali, give me chills. I love it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. No, you're right, and it's really hard to do that. But I think it's one of the most important things is to enjoy, not only like the daily like creative process and whatever, but just like as a long career. That like you said, getting to that mountaintop, getting to that peak, getting to that beautiful place that you want to be. It's just enjoying that path and enjoying the journey, because otherwise, like, what is the point? Why sacrifice 10 years of, just like making it miserable when you can really just enjoy that time and really develop, like you said, and get to where you need to be.
And when you do it that way, and it's kind of like the car ride, or like, when are we going to be there? When you're a kid, when are we going to be there? Well, if you just stick your head in a book and start reading, you're there before you know it, and
Exactly.
that's how it is. You'll be there before you know it. You'll move so much quicker and happier along the way if you do it that way.
Exactly. I love it. Ali, this was amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for giving us that push.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. And you can find Ali on our website, which is alicavanaugh.com. That's ALICAVANAUGH. On Instagram, she is _ Ali Cavanaugh _ and you can also find the archives we were talking about earlier, alicavanaugharchives.com. And everything we talked about today will be at yourcreativepush.com/Ali Cavanaugh. Ali, thanks again.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Ali. There's so many lessons in this episode, not just for you as an artist, for you as a creative person, but for you as a human being. You know, whatever it is in your life that you're trying to achieve, whatever the goal is, whatever that mountaintop is that she was talking about, in order to get there, you have to take those steps. You have to actually put the effort in. And sometimes that can seem very arduous, and sometimes that can seem like a very long distance away and a very long time away. But if you're deciding to take those steps and to go on that journey, to go on that path, you might as well enjoy it. You know, look around, like she was saying, look around at where you're at, enjoy the process of trying to get to that place, the beauty of the journey, and just looking back every once in a while to see the kind of progress that you've made, and looking forward as well to the ultimate goal that you want to get to. But it's all about, you know, living in the moment. It's really hard to do on a day-to-day basis, especially when you have big goals and big aspirations, but you have to do it. Enjoy your time with your art. Enjoy your time with your creativity. Enjoy the day-to-day triumphs and even enjoy the struggles with it too. And I actually want to go back to something she mentioned in part 1 when she said, I made my family an opposition to me creating my art. And I want you to just stop and think about this one. Honestly, ask yourself if you do this. And, you know, I absolutely have done this. And not just with my wife, with, you know, the time devotion required for this podcast and time with friends and family and having to sacrifice that and almost, you know, blaming them for that in a way. Even if it's not outwardly, if it might be in your own mind, in my own mind. But, you know, other things like blaming my parents for me not being brave enough to be ultra honest, you know, as a writer, which is one of the most important things to do as a writer. Blaming, you know, them for not saying things exactly the way they are because I'm afraid my mother will see it. I'm fucking 30, you know, and I still have that. I've definitely gotten over it to an extent, but you know, just really ask yourself if you use, you know, family or friends or anything else unfairly as an excuse for you to not do your work. You know, you have to give them a choice to support you or not support you with your creativity, but you still have to tell them, you know, what you're up to, what you want out of life, what you want out of your creativity, what you want out of all this time that you're putting into it. Really be honest about it and let them know exactly what you want out of it before you make up decisions for them. So just really be honest about that. And I really appreciate Ali for opening up about that as well as everything else in this episode, in these 2 episodes actually. But I hope that you were able to gain a lot from this, and hopefully it inspired you to go and get your work done. So go and get it done. I tell you it every day. Just go do it. So if you need the push again, tune in tomorrow. Otherwise, go and get some awesome stuff done, and we will see you later. Have a great day, everybody, and keep it up. Never miss a push. Head to yourcreativepush.com/subscribe to find the easiest way for you to subscribe to the podcast.